Okay, hey guys, we're going to be talking about Russia. This lecture is going to be a little bit different. It's a lot more overview and giving more context to what we're actually talking about. Remember in class we started talking about the rise of absolutism in Eastern Europe. Well, this is kind of like building us there, going over a lot of Russian history very quickly. Okay, so keep in mind some of these themes: violence, autocratic rule, using secret police, having basically a group that will follow the Tsar's orders to enforce anything that he decides upon. Kind of like the intendants, except the secret police is, I think, a little bit more violent and secret. And then, of course, Russians are looking to expand their borders, and because of their geographic location, they're always seeking a warm water port. Okay, so some few things that we need to look at is that for the most part, Russia is going to be isolated from Western Europe and a lot of the development that's going on. And the reason why is because they were very much looking and influenced towards the Eastern world. They were ruled by the Mongols for 200 years. And also, they did not practice Catholicism, they did not practice Protestantism, but Orthodox Christianity. So this is, a while back with the Byzantine Empire, and they also used the Cyrillic alphabet. It's based upon the Greek alphabet, but it was introduced to the Slavic people. So the Russians are ethnically, their background is Slavic, and so they have a lot of differences in terms of how they have they don't have the common ground, and for various different characteristics. Okay, background characteristics. All right, as a people. Here is a picture of the church, the Kremlin church. So this is kind of like very symbolic of what people imagine Russian architecture to be. This is in Moscow, and these like domes are shaped like onion heads, and you have of course, the Orthodox cross at the top. Here is the Cyrillic alphabet in some books. Okay, and we're going to talk about kind of where is Russia, what's it like. Landlocked, we kind of talked about this before. No warm water seaports, which means it's very difficult for ships to navigate because all other ports are pretty much icy. It's like Titanic if you were to head on that direction. So the Arctic Ocean, as you can see, is pretty much a lot of frozen, dangerous. It's not a place where merchants would want to go. They do have a significant amount of rivers that are navigable, but many times it would lead into frozen areas. And of course, the Black and Caspian Seas is where they would end up, and the other ends. And the climate is very harsh. You guys, can imagine in Siberia and just in Russia in general, the winters are very cold, nothing like where we live, even though it was freezing for us at 40 degrees. Rainfall, very low. So what that means is that crops cannot grow with the harsh climate. You have to have the right and appropriate climate in order for your crops to grow. Can't be too cold, can't over rain. And so it was a struggle for them agriculturally. All right, so the Byzantine Empire. Last time we talked about them, September, long time ago. So main things that we have to know is the capital, right? Constantinople. 330 AD is when it becomes the capital. Byzantium is now changed to Constantinople because of Constantine. And then this is before the Eastern Roman Empire. Okay, remember that? Western, Eastern. Anyways, that's not that important. What is important is that there was the Great Schism in 1054. What did that split up? You should know this. Okay, yes. You have Orthodox Christianity and Catholicism splitting off. They have some differences in their ceremonies, right? You have the Pope with the Catholics, and then with the Orthodox Christians, you have the Patriarch who's kind of like their religious leader. All right, so the schism in 1054 will affect, because if we're talking about where Constantinople was, a lot of the missionaries went northeast into Eastern Europe, into Russia. In 988 in Kiev, you have a prince, Prince Vladimir I, who converted to Orthodox Christianity, and so all Kievans become Christian. And so then we have the fall of Constantinople. So I'll review. I know I'm going really fast, but just to kind of speed you up of how Orthodox Christianity has been there, for a long time, and it's really embedded into their society. When did the fall of Constantinople come? 1453. You were right. So a lot of those Eastern Orthodox Christians realized, well, if Constantinople has fallen, where is our kind of our headquarters? Where's our holy city? And they said maybe it's going to be in Moscow. And so the Byzantine symbol once was a double-headed eagle, and if you saw on the first slide, I had the Russian flag. That was kind of the symbol of the Tsar. And yes, so Moscow became kind of like this location as the protector of Orthodox Christianity. That was the headquarters now, and Orthodox Christianity was the true faith, not Catholicism, not Protestantism, and those were straying away from the truth. Okay, all right, so then we're going to see that the czars are going to inherit more absolute power, and it's because the Byzantine emperors, they once had that power, and so it's kind of like that tradition is being passed down, and what we're going to see is that the Tsar is going to slowly gain more power in establishing a central government, and there's going to be a power struggle, of course, between the Tsar and the nobles, who are the boyars, and just how important is the role of the Tsar in terms of gaining this power? Well, they became like godlike individuals that were very well respected, even worshipped at times, believing that they had divine right. Okay, so we talked about that today as well, and so only God and the Tsar knows. The Tsar has a divine right, and so you don't question that. And there's this patriarchal relationship as they see the Tsar as the father of Russia, okay, the father of the Russian people. And just as the Tsars are gaining more power as absolute rulers, right, we have a lot of these ideas of representative assemblies, of individual rights, and having representation in general, and having more power that is shared with the king. Okay, after the Magna Carta and all the other types of events that bring this out in Western Europe, Russia is going through something quite the opposite. Okay, all right, so I mentioned a little bit about the Tsars, but let's continue on and talking about what's going on in Russia over the centuries. Okay, so you had the Viking invasion. We talked about this last semester as well. Basically, the Vikings are going throughout Europe, right, conquering, invading, specifically which places? Well, they are taking off from the Baltic in Scandinavia, and they're going to Vienna and Dnieper, taking those rivers down into really important places that will affect the Russian people. The Rus, or the Rus, is a Finnish word for Vikings, and so they are the ones where the Vikings are, remember, let's review, they're seizing these small villages and told the people, we'll protect you, right, if you pay tribute and, give us crops, food, etc., etc., money, anything, just to, goods to honor them for their protection. They would make towns in places like Kiev and Moscow, and over time, these rulers in these places would develop their own principality. Okay, and they would call it Kiev in Russia. This meant that there were these princes there as a principality, or dukes, and they would be considered to be the noble class now. And we kind of mentioned this. Who are these nobles exactly? Well, they are now identified as the boyars. What ends up happening is that with these princes, they're going to start competing for attention with each other, okay, for more power. All right, so after the Vikings comes the Mongols. So one thing is that because you always have all these different types of people groups from different parts of the world, invading and conquering, it really is adding to kind of the culture and society of the Russian people at that time. Okay, so the Mongols invade in 1237. So for 200 years, they're in power, and they were called the Golden Horde. Golden because of all the riches, and they too wanted you to pay tributes, just like the Vikings. And horde comes from the Mongol word, and it's representing the cavalry. Okay, as you guys know, the Mongols with Genghis Khan, riding on horseback, bow and arrows, right? Very ruthless, very barbaric. And so what ends up happening is that because they're coming from Asia, right? They're coming from the East. Russia is going to be more Eastern Asian oriented, looking to the East. And so they're going to be more isolated, as we talked about. And the Mongols are very nomadic, and so they come and go. There is no economic development. There is no political development. They just are there to collect tribute, and they don't really get involved with the Russian culture. So what ends up happening is is that Orthodox Christianity is going to continue to grow through that, and then you have those who have mixed from Mongol and Russian blood, those descendants, right? Those generations are called the Tatars, and eventually the Mongols will be weakened after the plague comes in the 1340s. So we talked about the Black Death. That will weaken the Mongol population and eventually contribute to them dying out. Okay, here's a picture of the Golden Horde, and as you can see, they are very successful and victorious in a lot of places they conquered, all over Asia and going all the way through Eastern Europe. Okay, so this is a genealogy of the Tsars before Peter the Great. This is kind of building all up before Peter the Great. Let's continue. I think we can get through this in 17 minutes probably. Okay. So before the Romanov dynasty, which we talked about, who would rule for 300 years, there were still the princes of Moscow. So princes are owning their own territory, and they basically are competing for a while because they want to have more favor with the Mongols, and eventually they can team up together and take down the Mongols. And if we talk about the Kremlin, it's basically a Russian word for fortress. It began to be built in 1160, and it was destroyed, got burnt down, but here comes Ivan the Great. Ivan the Great, which is also known as Ivan the Third, will come and defeat the Mongols in 1480. Finally, the Grand Princes had enough of the Mongols, and then they band together and then defeat them, kick them out. And this made Moscow the dominant city. And he would then take over more territories kind of around Moscow, and really just setting a pattern for Russia to expand outward. And he took the title of the Tsar, which I haven't explained this yet, which means Caesar. Okay, so remember we talked about Caesar and how many rulers always wanted to have this title as emperor, as in charge of an empire. But the thing is, though he gave himself that title, he was never crowned, but he believed that he held the powers of an emperor, like in the Byzantine days. And so he would then rule Russia. Here is a map of the Kremlin. Okay, you have a lot of cathedrals, and this was, a place where it was used as a fortress, but also they had all the latest military technology, and it's still standing today. Okay, so this is a picture of the Kremlin during the Soviet era. Okay, we get to the Cold War, all that kind of stuff. Okay, let me finish up with Ivan the Terrible. So Ivan the Terrible is also Ivan the Fourth. After Ivan the Great was able to defeat the Mongols, basically the Principality of Moscow is the new Russian state. That's the headquarters and capital. That's where everything is. That's what the Kremlin is. And Ivan the Fourth will be crowned Tsar, and he takes the official title for Russia as Tsar, and he starts to then expand eastward. The reason being is because to the west of him is Sweden and Poland, and they were actually more powerful than Russia, so he ends up going eastward. And there's actually, so much land to cover because Russia is the biggest in land, in size. Okay, so what is he known for? Well, he is really known to expand the absolute rule of the Tsar by crushing nobility. So the boyars, he would always threaten them, okay, and he would often just kill off entire families at a time. He's very ruthless. That's what he calls the Terrible. And his wife, Anastasia Romanova, she died because she was poisoned, and that kind of set him back and really affected him psychologically. And yeah, he begins to be very paranoid that people are going to dethrone him, okay, including his son, which we'll talk about that. So you have the pronounce this wrong, Oprichniks. These are the secret police that he has hired specifically to control the nobles. In return, he will give them land. If any traitors, just take it from them, just give it to these guys, and they're serving him, and they're in uniforms. They wear all black, and they basically want to intimidate anyone who disobeys. Okay, here is a picture of Ivan killing his son. And what happened was they were in a heated argument, and eventually he, I think, stabbed him with that staff that you can see down there at the bottom of the picture. Yeah, a lot of times he has a temper issue psychologically, is not stable, and he does very violent things, okay? This is St. Basil's Cathedral. This is ordered by Ivan IV to be built. This is one of the biggest cathedrals, and this is in the center of Moscow. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with this, the time of troubles. Okay, after Ivan the Terrible, there are other czars, but what ends up happening is that because of the oppression of the nobles by the Tsar, they eventually fight back, okay? And so the nobles start to rebel, and it becomes a time of anarchy. And so we label this the time of troubles, where after it's finally settled, the nobles decide that they are going to elect a new Tsar. Okay, so in 1613, Moscow's nobles elect Michael Romanov, and so now you have the Romanov dynasty. And of course, we know this dynasty is the one that leads all the way to the Russian Revolution with Nicholas Romanov in 1917. Okay, so through Michael Romanov, the Tsar and its relationship with the boyars is going to change. with his new dynasty beginning, he will set a pattern to bring stability and centralization of power. Okay, Russia, it is still very poor and weak, not developed at all. Okay, we'll get there, but his main issue is trying to work things out with the boyars because they control the government bureaucracy, basically all of the major decisions, how it's run. The Tsar doesn't have that power, but he's going to change that.